Hello, and welcome to the Sunshine Sound Podcast with your host, Christine Matthias.
Like a lot of people who previously were sort of apolitical are becoming more political through their music. And I think it's this sort of collective waking up that we feel happening around us. And maybe we had to go to a dark place to get there, but it feels like things are starting to change and wake up. And I think we're seeing that reflected in art. That's always how we see social change, right?
Hello, and welcome to episode number 9 of the Sunshine Sound Podcast. In this one, I interviewed Abby Dorsey, also known as MC Flo. She is a San Diego artist known for her cannabis-infused raps, and she has a laid-back attitude and often humorous point of view. But she also has more politically charged music, and how could you not when you're rapping about marijuana in this day and age? So she's been featured in a lot of places like High Times, Bustle, Mashable, and she's gained notoriety for her really cool music videos like Pot and the Latkes, and her most recent video, Welcome to the Dispensary, which is all about recent legalization of weed in California. So we talk about how that's affected her career and her music, and her well-timed release of her EP called Her Highness, which came out on 4/20. So we also talk about her songwriting process, what it's like to make music videos, and the value of having a strong network. And what seems to be a common theme with a lot of the musicians that I've talked to is the struggles that we all seem to face in marketing and reaching our audience. So, of course, we talk a lot about the cannabis industry, and as always, we will have a chance to listen to a couple of her new tracks. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, so today in the studio, I have MC Flo. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. How's it going? How's your day going?
My day has been pretty good today. Yeah, good day. I did some recording today, and I haven't done that in a while, so that was kind of actually unexpected, but fun.
Cool, yeah, because you just came out with a new album, Her Highness.
With an EP, yeah.
Awesome. So tell me about that.
So Her Highness, it's a 5-song EP of cannabis-based raps, or I say maybe cannabis-infused raps. Mm-hmm. It started from a song that I wrote a few years ago, Pot and the Latkes, mm-hmm. which I put out a video for that did pretty well online. It made me kind of realize that people loved laughing about weed, talking about weed, and that they wanted to talk about weed. And so they started talking to me about it a lot, and I decided I just wanted to explore the topic more. It's always something that I have written about and used to write or with writing, but I decided to sort of make it the focus, and some beautiful things came out of it.
Nice. So is that, did you start writing those songs after all the legalization stuff came about?
Probably even before, before, so.
Yeah, so the timing of it has worked
out great, yeah, definitely. But yeah, of course, I mean, it's our political climate. I think you can't be an artist right now and not be working in response to some degree to the political climate that we're in, right? And cannabis is such an interesting topic because it touches on so many different things. Because when you talk about cannabis, you talk about racial relations and, the war on drugs. You talk about, it touches parenting, right? It touches what we put in our bodies, healthcare, and the way that our country's healthcare system does not work to our benefit. So it's one of those interesting topics that touches on a whole bunch of other things that are really important right now and that are kind of coming to the surface. Right? Mm-hmm. Even, women and feminism, there's a huge feminist movement within the cannabis community because a lot of people believe that it's such a new industry that it provides the opportunity to sort of create a new industry from the ground up that doesn't have to abide by all the old patriarchal good old boy rules,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So there's a huge feminist movement and lots of networking groups to help women empower each other to be part of the cannabis community. So feminism, again, another thing that it hits on. It just touches on a lot of interesting topics. So there's plenty to write about.
Yeah, it's a good time to be creating.
Yeah.
And so the music they had written in the past did cannabis have a role in either creating it or did it have a presence in the music?
Well, yeah, I mean, both. Cannabis has been in my life on and off since I was in high school. But it definitely always played a role, and I definitely rapped about it in past work. But this was when, the first time that it became the focus.
Sure. Yeah. And again, great timing. So you just had 420 came up, and that was, I saw that's when you released it. Is that right?
Yep.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
And I saw you also just did a cool, it looked like a pretty cool outdoor festival thing.
Yeah, that was
420. How was
that was 420 as well. That was the Baked Festival, BAYKED, for San Diego Bay. And it was put on by Urban Leaf, and I believe Weed Maps was a co-sponsor, and Five Group. And it was just a day to celebrate 420 and cannabis culture by the Bay, down by Seaport Village.
Right, yeah. Oh, fun.
And it was great. So I got to bring in 420 itself, which was fun. I had the 415 set.
Nice.
And got to ring in the official 420. So that was fun. And my friend Billy Galewood was on stage with me, and he's a ton of fun. And my friend Tori, who sings on the first track on the EP, Morning, Noon, Night, she came down from LA and she sang on that song. So it was great. It was great to celebrate the first legal 420. And also to celebrate the release of the EP at the same time.
Very nice. Yeah. So with the festival, is this not yet like legal, or I don't know if it ever will be legal to like smoke
Correct.
publicly?
Exactly.
Right?
So technically it was a non-consumption event, which was interesting, right? It came into play for me too, because they were like, no, you can't smoke on stage and like say, blaze it up, happy 420. And for a moment, my soul was crushed, because I thought,
Yeah.
how can it be for 420 and I not do that? But, once I checked myself, I listened to what they had to say about the importance of, playing by the rules for now and building a good relationship with the city. I completely support and endorse that. So technically it was a non-consumption event. I definitely did see some consumption
I'm sure.
taking place, but it was not like, Cannabis Cup days of old where they had dab booths and, lounges where you could actually smoke on site. It wasn't like that, but I think we'll get there. It's just a matter of like you said, legislation changing, the rules changing, having adult social use, I think is what they call it, or public adult consumption. I don't know. I don't know what the exact terminology is, but I know in LA, I hear they're starting to do some cannabis lounges, kind of along the lines of Amsterdam coffee shops. And I don't know how exactly they're able to implement that at this point, but I hope, we get there here too.
Yeah.
It would be nice.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that would be awesome to have here. And you had a really cool music video, Welcome to the Dispensary.
Thank you.
And that was, which business was that associated with?
That was Urban Leaf.
That was Urban Leaf. Cool. And so how did you get hooked up with them?
Just completely randomly. I had looked into a few other dispensaries to shoot the video. I thought I was going to shoot it in LA, but then I went to an Urban Leaf market. At the time, they can't do it anymore, I don't think, with the new regulations, but they did have what they called the urban market, which was sort of like a farmer's market-esque type thing outside the dispensary, where even if you didn't have a medical license at that time, you could come and you could talk to different vendors and learn about different products. And I had my medical license, but I was interested in it because I thought it was a great event in that it was educational and it engaged community and brought people in that may not have been able to come in and engage with the cannabis scene. And so I went to check out the urban market and walked into the space. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is it. this is where we need to do it, because we had looked at a place in LA, but we really wanted to dance. And we had always kind of played around with the idea of some sort of dramatic lift. I guess that's my own, like, I grew up watching musicals, so I guess that was my own fantasy of like that I would eventually end up in some dramatic lift, which kind of happened. But when I went in there and I saw the tall ceilings and all the open space, and it was modern and clean lines, you know, like I really wanted to find a shop that represented sort of where dispensaries are going, right? That they're not hole-in-the-wall spots anymore, you know? They're like beautiful boutiques that look more like an Apple store, you know? So that's the story. And so I went in there, and I literally just that moment, I was like, is there a manager here I can talk to? That was the first day that I talked to somebody there. And then just kept talking to them, and they were into it from the get-go, and they've been nothing but supportive. So for me, I think it was a great match. And it'll be interesting to watch them grow. They're about to open another location close to the airport. They're really going to focus on cannabis tourism, and, you know, Urban Leaf will pick you up at the airport, take you to the dispensary to get your weed,
nice.
You know? So, you know, that's pretty good. That's my kind of vacation for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
I like it.
So can you really get a discount if we
if you mention
you?
me? Yes.
Nice.
At the location where it was shot, at the Buenos Aires location. Yeah, you can.
Very cool. And so what was it like to shoot that video? It looked like it was a ton of fun, but yeah.
It was a ton of fun. It also was a very short period of time, because the dispensaries are open crazy hours. They're open like 7 a.m. till 9 p.m., I think, every day.
Oh,
so we went in at 9 and basically shot 9 to midnight and just ran it super, super fast. We had, you know, our ideas of what we needed to get done. And so we shot it pretty quickly, and then we did some day shooting in the days before and after to get some of the exterior shots. But yeah, it was pretty fast. And Charisse Coulter directed. She did Pot in the Latkes for me as well, and we've become close friends and collaborators, and I think you know her through Rock Camp as well. Yep. So yeah, Charisse, she knocked it out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you do the choreography?
My friend Gianna and her other friend, they worked on the choreography. That's a hard word to say.
It is, right?
Choreography. They did it. Yeah, I think I attempted some choreography at first, and I presented it to them, and they were like, "Oh no, no." So yeah, so they did the choreography, and they're from Stage 7 dance. What's the word? I want to say dance hall. That's a very old-fashioned dance studio.
Yeah.
Stage 7 dance studio in North Park. Yeah.
Nice.
Salija and Gigi.
Super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like you have some good connections, some good people supporting, and I think so much about being successful and being a creative person is kind of having that community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'd love to play one of your songs. You sent me a lot of really cool ones.
Great.
So yeah, let's take a quick break and let's listen to Free.
Excuse me while I light this. You can fight this, but I'll still spark. Time's up, gotta write this. Gotta shine the light where it's still dark. Prohibition lacks insight, lacks intellect, so I've been hype. And I've been shocked, see a plant locked in plain sight. First point on this joint, this is Mother Earth, that's the whole point. We don't own her, but we owe her respect for what she grows, sir. And I know, sir, that it's reefer, but these kids are having seizures. And I see, sir, you keep yours out of their reach with your procedures. Tell me all about your patent. Don't say it didn't happen. Fact is, cannabis is medicine. You spelled it out exactly, then retracted. Attacked it with the Schedule 1 infraction. Funny how it's only medicine when you collect the taxes.
Set the world free, light up tonight and see it with me. Let it be. Got this for free. Set the world free, light up tonight and see it with me. Let it be. Got this for
aching joint. You know I'm fighting fire with fire, and that's the fucking point. Anoint me with the holy oil that even JC had in spoils appointed kings with herbal things, and that's my case in point. In case you're late, my neighbor takes it for his aching joints. I never over-medicate, I know my breaking points. They say the war on drugs is dead, we're smoking blazing joints instead, embracing state instead of fed. I think I made my point. Yeah, little orange bottles with little white tops mean big green dollars for little white stocks. Walk little green plants and young black males into overpacked jails. Full stop, full disclosure, I like weed, I like it a lot. And every time I hit it, make that red cherry pop. And everywhere I go, I spread the gospel of pot. I'm dropping ash like an apostle, passing splits off to God. My mic drop.
Set the world free, light up tonight and see what it means. Let it be. Got this for free. Set the world free, light up tonight and see what it means. Let it be. Got this for free.
Excuse me while I light this, you can fight this, but I'll still spark. Excuse me while I light this, you can fight this, but I'll still spark. Excuse me while I light this, you can fight this, but I'll still spark. Excuse me while I light this, you can fight this, but I'll still spark. Get brighter than the motherfucking lightning can be. I'm getting higher by the word, cause that's what writing can be. I'm getting higher from the herb that I be lighting for free. You see, cause everywhere I turn, people be giving me tree. They're like, yo, Flo, do you wanna get high? Do you wanna spit game? Do you wanna get rich? I'm like, yeah, I wanna get high, but I wanna make change and I wanna be quick. Wanna speed evolution, wanna read revolution. Need to see the reunion of Earth and human. Surely we can find a solution. They're like, do you really smoke weed? Cause you rap real fast and you don't lose breath. I'm like, yeah, I just smoke weed out back with the Pope and I'm hashtag blessed. My new motto is just say yes, and I'm hot right now as you might have guessed. I confess that I choke and I rap, never choke on the smoke cause I'm hashtag best. And brighter than the motherfucking lightning can be. I'm getting higher by the word cause that's what writing can be. I'm getting higher from the herb that I be lighting for free. You see, cause everywhere I turn, people be giving me treat. I'm spitting fire as I motherfucking fight to be free. You see, I'm tired of being quiet, I just wanna be me. I'm spitting fire as a motherfucking mighty MC. You see, I'm here to start a riot, got the right to be free.
Set the world free, light up tonight and see what it means. Let it be. Got this for free. Set the world free, light up tonight and see what it
Okay, and we're back. Yeah, so tell me about that track.
So Free is the most political track for sure on the EP. And it was a song that I actually initially wrote to a different beat, and then ended up sort of reworking it and redoing it when I went into the studio with Dre, who produced the EP. But for me, yeah, Free is about just that. It's about like being free, letting go. For me, the song always had a sort of rise to it that had some kind of like release or something at the end that had, to me, it was always the biggest climax, I guess is a terrible word. I'm MC Flo, and I'm here to talk about climaxes. But yeah, it for me came to this climax that allowed me to sort of like let go and kind of just go for it in a way that I hadn't done before in a song. And the song, you know, makes me feel angry, and it has a you know, a level of anger to it. And it talks about some of the more socio-political issues surrounding cannabis. But for me, it's it's one of the more political ones. I kind of wanted to show a little bit of everything on this EP and have some songs that were more serious, and of course more songs like my standard, which is that I like to use humor and laughs to make people think about other things.
Yeah, I like that. And so when you write music, because the whole rap world really is kind of a mystery to me. Like, what is that songwriting process like for you? Like, do you start with the words, and where does the music play into it? What does that look like?
Usually I start with the music because I like the music to inform what the lyrics are going to be about and what the song is going to feel like and be about. But it can go either way. And sometimes I'll take something I've written for something and then try it over a totally different beat. And it'll change the delivery and give it a different life. And I'll like it more and switch it. But generally, I will find a beat either online or from somebody that I'm working with. Or, I do some basic production at home on my computer, just enough to like get me to a point where I can get going creatively, and then take it to somebody else to really like make it shine later.
So what do you use to make beats if you do that?
Logic usually,
Okay. Yep,
and
that's what I
then
use too.
yeah, and then I have a few apps on my iPad too. So I'll use the GarageBand on my iPad because it's a little different and more intuitive than the GarageBand that I used to have like on a desktop. On the desktop, I use Logic, and then I'm just starting to learn some other stuff. So we'll see. It's such a big learning curve, I feel like, but in the end, if you can just sit down and play with it, the more you do it, right, the better you get.
Yeah. So when you're like using Logic and making beats or anything, like, are you using like any kind of like MIDI controllers or like a keyboard or anything, or what does that look like?
I have a small MIDI keyboard that has some touch pads on it too. It's like a real small basic M Audio, like $99.99 little travel one. It's like it's really small. But yeah, my beat making skills are minimal for sure.
Yeah, but I think you can still do a lot with just minimal stuff, especially now with how much you can find online too. So like what kind of stuff are you able to find online, or where do you go for that?
In terms of tutorials and
Or
that kind of
like
stuff, finding samples?
Samples, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really done so much of that myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not really so deep into the production side. I mean, actually, I shouldn't say that though, because when I first started working on Her Highness, I was using a lot of samples, stuff that I was just like ripping off YouTube, because Her Highness for me also was born out of the fact that I have a young daughter. And my daughter was going through this like crazy princess stage that little girls tend to go through around, 5 years old. And so everything was like princesses and crowns and royal this and that. And so it got me kind of just thinking about royalty in general. And so I always joked around like, oh, okay, well, if I were a queen, then clearly I would be the queen of weed. And that kind of informed Her Highness. But I've already forgotten how I got onto this topic of my
like
daughter.
Samples and things.
Oh, from samples. Yeah. Right. Okay, so in the beginning, I was sampling a lot of Disney stuff because I was really trying to like push it and play on that feminist trope of, the Disney princess, and say, okay, well, you want a princess, then I'm going to be the princess of weed, and I'm going to give you the legit Her Highness, blaze it princess. So I was using some of the different Disney samples, but then, of course, as soon as you start to go into the stage of music when you're thinking about putting it out, and you're thinking about publishing, and you're thinking about rights, it was like, well, obviously, none of those were really going to fly for me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm now starting to think what I think I'll do next is maybe put out a Her Highness mixtape that it has some of those earlier stuff that I worked on, and also some other stuff that just I don't, have licenses for. And I think it could maybe be a little bit more experimental. But I do love playing with different sounds and playing with clips from just pop culture in general,
Yeah, that's fun. I think I think that's an important piece of music. Sometimes it is just playing with sounds and seeing what you can do with it.
Yeah.
And then so where do the words come in? Like at what point do you start like adding start rapping over the music?
The words usually come pretty fast, and I don't know. I don't know where they come from or what the magic is.
Yeah. Do you think of like the concept for the whole song at first and then kind of fill it in, or is it more like organic, intuitive?
Yeah, it really depends. It depends on the song. Definitely both ways. There are times when I super write a song, you know, and I really think about it. And I think about the theme and I think about what I want to happen in each verse and where am I going, and I really map it out. And then there's other times, yeah, like you said, that you just get on the mic and you do something weird to it. Your voice sounds different and you're able to like sing a little different, and it just takes you to some other place.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, how did you get into rapping?
Through spoken word initially. So I did host an open mic in Hillcrest for a long, probably like 2 or 3 years, I think it was. It was an open mic for women called Siren. And at that time I was doing a lot of spoken word. And I started hanging out with a lot of musicians. And I wanted to be involved. And so I started thinking about ways that I could take some of my stuff and put it to music. And then just started playing around with it more and more and became obsessed with it.
Nice. And yeah, so do you think that that's what you want to continue to do? Like, stay in kind of the rap world? Have you thought about exploring other genres of music or anything?
Yeah, I love all genres of music, and I like writing in multiple styles and genres. So I definitely could see myself writing for other people in different genres for sure. In terms of me performing, I don't have the strongest singing voice. I'm starting to like learn a little more and get more confident. But I'm very aware of that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. I love rapping. Rapping is so fun. It feels so good. And I love doing it. So I know that I'll continue to do it. But above everything, I love just songwriting. I mean, and it can be, like I said, any genre. Like, I listen to everything. I love country music. I love trap. I love everything. Yeah. I listen to a very wide range of stuff.
Nice.
What about you?
Yeah, I do too, for sure. There's too much music out there to limit yourself. And I think no matter what kind of music you're playing, it's cool when you can be influenced by different genres. Yeah. So like when because I've never rapped or performed as a rapper, and I think about like what seems so challenging about it is like when I'm singing in singing a song and I miss a word or I forget a line, it's no big deal. It's easy to kind of just fake it. That seems harder to do when you're rapping.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, you just, as you know, you get good at faking it and you just keep going. If you drop one, you keep going. But yeah, rap is intense, right? Because it's so dense. It's so many lyrics to remember. But that's what makes it so incredible. I always think of Lin-Manuel Miranda, who I just love and adore, and how he talked about how like he could only have told Hamilton and the story of Hamilton through hip hop because it's so dense. There's so many words, and so that allows for so much storytelling. And that's an interesting thing to think about.
That's true. You can fit a lot more content into a rap song than like your typical rock song. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take a quick break and listen to another track. Let's listen to Oh Charlotte. This song's really powerful. So let's take a quick break.
You started out the way that babies do. Two parents were in love and they created you. Twin girls, they patiently awaited you. And on the day you were born, they celebrated you. Oh, Charlotte, you were such a blessing to the world. Pink cheeks, tiny toes, mom and dad's baby girl. Oh, Charlotte, they couldn't wait to see you grow. Your parents love you more than you will ever know. But at 3 months old, the seizures hit like an earthquake, twisting up your body, shaking you in the worst way. Doctors called it epilepsy, they called it Dravet's. Every seizure stormed through your eyes like hurricanes. With every seizure you were slipping away. Seizure numbers climbing up into the hundreds each day. Oh, Charlotte, your parents prayed and prayed, tried everything they could, but you were drifting away.
Oh, Charlotte, Charlotte. Oh, Charlotte, Charlotte. Oh, Charlotte, Charlotte. So beautiful to watch you grow. And now your parents, they were both singing I won't give up. If they heard about a treatment, they were looking it up. Oh, Charlotte, they read every word until they read about a herb that would changing the world for the boys and girls who were just like you. This plant produced an oil with a power, but it's true that this flower had a history of being taboo. So your parents took a chance and they gave it to you.
Oh, Charlotte, even on that very first day, this plant kept the seizures and the pains at bay. Oh, Charlotte, you came back to life, and after years in the dark, there was finally light. But the plant was rare, hard to procure. Your parents found some brothers who would grow you some more. Oh, Charlotte, another birthday came. You planted a seed, we gave it your name.
Oh, Charlotte, Charlotte. Oh, Charlotte, Charlotte. Oh, Charlotte, Charlotte. So beautiful to watch you grow.
Now everybody's looking at Charlotte, steady growing each day. Steady out there on your bike riding with Maxwell and Chase. Already out there taking hikes with a smile on your face. Beaming on the school bus, pulling away. Oh, Charlotte, the word is getting around about the power of the plant and the answers you found. Oh, Charlotte, we're gonna make you proud. We're gonna chant your name, break the barriers down.
Oh, Charlotte, Charlotte. Oh, Charlotte, Charlotte. Oh, Charlotte, Charlotte. It's so beautiful to watch you grow.
And we're back. Yeah, so tell me about that one. I think I in one of the news stories I was reviewing on you, I saw you talk about that a little bit. But yeah, so tell us about that.
Yeah, so Oh, Charlotte is the story of Charlotte Figge. And Charlotte and her family live in Colorado. And when Charlotte was younger, she was diagnosed with Dravet's syndrome, which is a very severe form of epilepsy, and tried a lot of different treatments. And she was having hundreds of seizures a day, and was really struggling to go on. And her parents tried cannabis oil and immediately had a positive response. And they have been able to manage her seizures successfully using cannabis oil, and specifically a strain that was developed for her and was named after her called Charlotte's Web, which is very, very high in CBD, the non-psychoactive component of cannabis, and very low in THC, the part that gets you high, right? So I had seen her story on I think it was like Sanjay Gupta or one of those CNN type shows. And I don't know, it just really stuck with me. I think maybe because also, again, I had like a young daughter at the time. And so I was thinking, wow, like, what if that were me? And I had to watch my child suffer like that. I mean, it's so painful and so intense, and I can only imagine what it's like to be a parent and see your kid struggling and not being able to find the right answer, and then finding an answer and having other people tell you that, you know, you shouldn't or can't have access to it because technically it's illegal, you know. So I just, one day I remember where I was sitting when I started writing it downstairs, actually at my computer playing a beat, And it was I just felt like telling a story in that moment. And that the whole first verse, I think the first day I wrote the first 2 verses and the hook. And then it sat for a while. And then the last verse was added later down the line. And at that time, I had already contacted Charlotte's family. So I sent them, because I really wanted to make sure that they were okay with it. That was my primary thing, was like, I didn't want to create anything or put anything out there that they didn't feel reflected Charlotte and her story. So I had finished the first version of it, which was only 2 verses, and sent it to Charlotte's mom, and said, would love input if there's anything else that you want to tell me about Charlotte or your family. And so we actually had a little correspondence back and forth, and then I wrote the last verse. And then got my friend Jason Mraz to sing on it with me, which is awesome because he sings like an angel. And that is the story of Oh Charlotte.
Yeah, it's such an amazing story to hear about, like, how beautiful it is that she was able to find this, natural cure for that problem. It's encouraging to see that we're moving in the right direction as a country, but also really sad and frustrating that there's like, what has been our problem, you know?
Yeah. Sad and frustrating. It's a good way to put it. And especially with some of these families who become literally like refugees and have to move to different states in order to have access to this medication to give their kids. And they have to move their families or break up families in order to have access to it. I mean, it's just crazy. So yes, I do agree with you. I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. And I just hope that change comes quickly and that people are really able to start looking at some of the stigmas that they have against it, and just all the stories and things we've been taught that we need to sort of unteach ourselves. That's what I hope for.
Right. Yeah. And I think what you're doing definitely helps with that. It's, it's like, what is the difference that people see between like why are we okay with alcohol? I don't.
Right. Why are we okay with alcohol, which will ravage your body, causes people to get violent, causes people to black out. We're okay with that. It literally poisons your body, but a natural substance that nobody has ever died from or overdosed from. I mean, I can talk about this whole part for a whole other podcast.
Sure.
But yeah, it's important. It's important to talk about why it was made illegal in the first place, and what were we really, quote unquote, outlawing, at that time? What were we trying to outlaw? What were we afraid of? And that's all I have to say about that.
Do you think that, like, as a musician, you kind of in a way have a responsibility to, stay aware of these social issues, and being someone with a, microphone in front of an audience that's that can put out messages that in some ways that it's kind of the responsibility of a musician to fight for these causes, or is it just something that inspires you?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think for me, it's more like the way that I process it, right? The way that I think through all these problems and questions. So yeah, I don't know that I feel like it's my job, but, or my responsibility because I'm a musician, but at the same time, I feel like as an artist, it's a natural inclination to sort of process the world and ask these kinds of questions in a creative and sometimes musical way, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I answered that quite correctly.
No, absolutely. But I think it's that musicians and artists have a way of tapping into the truth, or maybe not being able to ignore the truth. And yeah, so I think that's what I feel comes out in your music. Yeah. And
I mean, like I was saying earlier about the political climate right now, I feel like a lot of people who previously were sort of apolitical are becoming more political through their music. And I think it's this sort of collective waking up that we feel happening around us. And maybe we had to go to a dark place to get there, but it feels like things are starting to change and wake up. And I think we're seeing that reflected in art. That's always how we see social change, right?
Sure, yeah. Do you think that that your art is always going to have some kind of either political or social changes? Like, do you think that's always going to be a part of the music you make?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know if that's a good thing. Maybe I need to lighten up a little bit, but no, I can be pretty light too.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I like
definitely.
to definitely use humor to hit on some of these more heady topics. But yeah, I think probably, yeah, I'm an activist. I don't know. I have opinions on things, and music is the way that I get my opinions out and I work through stuff. So yeah, it probably always will. Until Sky, my daughter, finally eventually says, "Oh, Mom, you are killing me. Please stop. You're so embarrassing. Stop talking about weed."
How old is Sky now?
She's 7, almost.
Okay.
She'll be 7
Okay.
in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. Does she listen to your music?
She listens to some of it, yeah. But we listen to a ton of music just in general together. And she's starting to learn a little bit of guitar. She's musical in general. She makes up songs constantly. So she's always, we used to joke and call it Skylar the Musical, because she would just sing her way through the day and sing everything. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see where she goes with it. But she's heard some of my songs, and I think she's seen me perform maybe like once or twice, but not very much, because I'm usually for the late crowd.
Sure. Has it been challenging to kind of balance having a kid and having a music career?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's hard for any mom to balance career and motherhood in general. And then, yeah, putting weed wrapper as your as your job on top of stay-at-home mom is definitely an interesting combo. But I think, the hardest part about parenting in general is just being able to carve out time for yourself, and music requires that kind of time, and that, at least for some people, maybe not everybody, I was listening to a podcast today when a musician was talking about how they grew up singing in their living room all the time. There was always music and everybody was playing. But so maybe if it was introduced to you that way, but for me, I'm a pretty introverted person, and to work, I like to be quiet and kind of go into my own zone, right? And have my own thing going on. I don't know.
Yeah, so it can be challenging to find that time.
It can be challenging to find that time as a parent in general, and then to put on top of it the pressure to then be creative in that moment, right? Because it's like, okay, I finally have the time. I got the kid to sleep, and now I have, an hour and a half of uninterrupted time. But then the pressure is on, right, to like really make the magic happen in that short window. And sometimes that works to your benefit, and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, I've thought about it in a lot of different ways, because I've also thought about how Sky will eventually find me totally embarrassing, and also that she'll eventually be able to, go on YouTube and watch all my videos and, interviews I've done and other things. So that part of it is like a little weird to think about. But I also think that, by the time she's older, some of these issues that I'm talking about in my songs are going to be in a very different place. And hopefully we won't really need to be fighting and singing and rapping about some of these things anymore. Hopefully we'll see change by the time Sky's a teenager.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do really good with marketing and putting yourself out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that definitely takes a lot of time and effort. Is that something that some creative people struggle with that piece of it? How do you feel about it?
I feel mixed about it. I feel like there is a lot of pressure now as an artist to do everything, right? It's like you have to do your own social media. You have to do get your image right. You have to, if you're me, like write all your own PR. Record the music yourself, do it at home, there's so much pressure now to do it all yourself. So that part I find challenging. I'm lucky that I worked for nonprofits before, and I did event planning, and I worked for different magazines. And so going in, I know what a press release is. I know like some of the basics that have helped me, I think, where maybe some of my counterparts didn't have that prior knowledge of like, oh, how do you get it to the local paper and get them to really pay attention to what you're trying to do when you're a nobody that nobody has heard of, right? So I think I had some of those skills, but I mean, I appreciate you saying that I seem like I have it on lock, because I feel like every day is school and I'm learning as I go, and some things seem like they work and some things don't. And then I have a close friend who just had her whole Instagram account just deleted. She does cannabis florals. So, flower arrangements that include cannabis leaves and other stuff. And Instagram just wiped it. Yeah, it happens. It happens because cannabis is still technically illegal on a federal level, that sometimes they come after certain accounts. And it's really sad. And you think of all the work that people put in building these, social media platforms, and then to have it all, you wake up and have it all just gone. So when I hear stories like that, I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. But I'm doing the best I can. Like I said, I'm learning as I go. And I would love any feedback or resources that you have, or tips that other guests have had about how to kind of balance that. Because you're right, I would think a lot of artists struggle with it, because we're musicians, we like to be behind our instruments in our own little world. And I don't know about you, but I find it really hard to write about myself. Like anytime I have to do like a bio and update my website and that kind of stuff, to me, that is the worst, writing about yourself. So yeah, I would be interested in any resources you have to share.
Yeah. I think it's hard because when you read an article about a musician or something, or look at their social media, it looks kind of effortless, and you don't realize how much work it actually takes. It's not like you're doing something cool and the newspapers come knocking on your door. Yeah.
It is. It's work. There's many levels, and it is a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, you're doing good, and
thank
you're putting great stuff out there. So, do you have any shows coming up or anything exciting happening?
That is a good question. No, I don't have any shows coming up right now. I'm hoping to get a few lined up, so I will keep you posted if that changes by the time this airs.
Sure.
But no, just focusing mostly on the EP, getting it out, getting it reviewed, making connections with people, and then, trying to book probably for the fall into some cannabis festivals.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So if people want to listen to MC Flow or find you, where can they do that?
You can find me everywhere. You can find Her Highness streaming on pretty much every digital platform. And you can find me on my website, which is mcflowmusic.com. And you'll find me on all the socials, and all that's on my website. So don't be shy. Say hi.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
Thanks for having me here.
Sure. So thank you for listening to episode number 9 of the Sunshine Sound Podcast. If you like what you heard, you can check us out at sunshinesoundcenter.org. I'm always open to questions and suggestions for guests, so feel free to contact me at Christine with a C at sunshinesoundcenter.org. You can also find some updates and other fun stuff on our Instagram, on Facebook. We got a Twitter we don't update too often, but you can check it out. Thanks again to Tommy Bobcat for audio engineering and for the theme music and for all the support. That's all I got for you today, and I hope you have a good one. I'll talk to you again soon.